Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SME Thought Leadership Series 2019, our last forum for this year. My name is Sophia Rosalie, and I'll be your host for today. The STAR's SME Thought Leadership Series 2019 is organized by Star Media Group and presented by SERC Bank Berhad. This series ranges from forums to TikTok to forums again, whereby a carefully selected panel of experts, thought leaders and change makers change their experiences and insights in their respective fields of expertise. We are delighted to have you present here with us from various backgrounds and industries for today's forum on business highlights on 2020. Our speakers will impart their thoughts on what and how Budget 2020 will affect businesses and explore on what path may be charted for business growth. Our lineup of distinguished speakers today, please welcome Mr. Lee Heng Guie, the Executive Director of Socio-Economic Research Centre, SERC. We have also Mr. Wilson, the Partnership Director, Co-founder of Policy Street of FinTech Association. And we also have Mr. Hussam Sultan, the Regional Head, Commercial and Transaction Banking of SERC Islamic Bank Berhad. We also have Mr. Jonathan Lee, the Executive Director, Ecosystem Development of Magic Malaysia. Mr. Paulo Calado, Small, Medium and Corporate Lead of Microsoft Asia. Mr. Leroy Ma, Business Development Director of NEM Blockchain. And last but not least, we have Mr. Shah Muhammad Ali, the Director of Production and Innovation of Priv Asia Technology Berhad. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big round of applause for being here with us to share their thoughts and experience under their belts with all of us today. Before we begin, I would like to kindly share our housekeeping rules and some information of the following. Please put all your mobile devices on silent mode during this session. Each of you would have received a copy of feedback form when you registered earlier. So kindly share with us your feedback and do pass it to our staff on your way out. SERC booth is located outside the foyer. Do pay a visit to the booth at your own leisure. SERC staff will be ready to assist you with any queries about your services and any information that you wish to know. We will be taking questions via Slido, so do open any browser on your mobile devices and enter the event code #SMEForum2, which will bring you to the page where you are able to submit your questions. So, to familiarize you with using Slido, let's do a quick poll test now. To begin with the test, please browse through your Slido via Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox and enter the event code #SMEForum2. All right, we're getting move on to the first individual session of our speaker for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now begin our first plenary with a presentation on 2020 and beyond for SMEs. This first speaker, Mr. Lee, has 30 years of professional experience as an economist with almost 12 years in Bank Negara Malaysia and 18 years in financial services. He was also the former head of economics research with SERC Investment. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Lee Heng Guie, the Executive Director of Socio-Economic Research Centre, SERC.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, media. Star Media and SERC for inviting me here today to share with you what is my take on the macro outlook for Malaysia or even the global side, and also to introduce some of the business opportunity for SME, given that we just introduced our budget for 2020. There are a lot of risks ahead, but I believe behind the risk, there also are opportunity, like what Chinese say, "Shangqi," we try to turn the crisis into an opportunity. I think today I'm trying to give you some perspective. What are the point of inflection for us to watch out in year 2020? That will determine what would be the outlook in terms of the macro, on the global side, and also on Malaysia. I think there are a lot of headwinds, and these headwinds likely to continue into next year. And it's important for the government to remain focused on what are the immediate or near-term measures, whether short or medium term, to sustain the domestic economic resilience and to brace the more challenging global environment. So my topic title is simple: Year of Inflection. What are the risks and what are the opportunity lies ahead? So I will be 3 messages coming from my talk today. First one is the global outlook. I believe it will remain turbulence, so watch out for what are the signs. Second, I think Malaysia likely to weather this global uncertainty. As we can see, up to first 9 months of this year, our growth is about 4.7%, though the third quarter number has somewhat slower compared to what the market expect. And the third one is about SME. What are the strategy for SME, given that SME contribute 98.5% of total Malaysia manufacturing establishment. The first one, what we are seeing now, the world economy is in a synchronized slowdown. That slowdown has started from last year, mid of last year, because of the ongoing trade tension between US and China that has dampened the global trade, investment, export, and also the manufacturing activity. So what you can see now, these are the latest numbers that in the advanced economy and also in the regional economy. In general, the growth has slowed down. It's not significantly slowed down, but global growth somewhat now is expecting about 3% for this year by the International Monetary Fund. So based on IMF definition, a growth of 3% is somewhat closer to recession. The feeling are there. So it's important for the government and also central bank to do the necessary thing to prevent the growth from coming down further, okay? So what are the indicators? Being economists, I like numbers, like accountants, no? But I don't know about businessmen. Numbers will give you some, like big data. You analyze the numbers, and you can draw a trend from there. So these are the key things that I always pick. First one, looking at the global economy, the 2 largest economies, the US and China. Their numbers are coming down slowly. Third quarter for the US about 1.9%. But one thing about US economy, the consumer spending is still quite resilient. For China, third quarter of 6% is the slowest in 27 years. Maybe for the first time, I need to acknowledge that China will face a lot of difficulty to even sustain the 6%. Maybe the growth about 5.6%. And that growth, whether it can help to sustain the medium-term outlook, it all depends on the ongoing trade war and also the internal policy prescription by the China government in order to reform the economy to become more resilient and more flexible. I think in terms of index, these are the indicators which I track. I think the one that I want to point out is about world trade contracted for 3 consecutive months since June 2019. Manufacturing contraction, services growth is the one that so far holding well. This reflects the underlying consumer spending in a global in context. The other one is about global semiconductor sales, double-digit decline, and also the inverted yield curve for those who are familiar with the bond market. But for the last few months, we see some reversion back to positive rather than negative, okay? So what are the inflection points? The first one is about Trump, yeah? The angry bird or the big bird. So I am not a politician, I can't read, but I think most of us would agree if he's not being elected, I think the world will be more peaceful, less pressure on the China, on the trade deal. But we are watching for the imminent sign of the first phase 1 of the trade deal, hopefully before Christmas. That if they can sign the first phase, that could pave a positive path going forward for the second and third phase. then you may expect some positive injection to the global market sentiments and also in the global growth. So we are waiting. If not, things will be quite bad. So I would say caution for next year, but I'm not looking about recession for global recession, but I'm looking at growth which is quite moderate in the sense, which I'll tell you the scenario next page. But before that, just talk about interest rate. I think global central bank has aggressively cut the interest rate. And this aggressiveness we have not seen since the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis. Everyone just rushing to cut rates. Why? They worry that next year will be a year of global recession. So they try to prevent that from happening, to mitigate the potential spillover effect from the trade tension on the domestic economy. So what's my scenario for next year? The global growth. So I'm looking at base case. Base case is, assuming there's no worsening on the trade tension. The U.S. Angry Bird is well behaved because of, as he campaigned, he also want to show that I think he's in a dilemma because he want to make sure the market, the Dow markets continue to charge ahead, economy behave good. At least you can tell the voters that I deliver. I promise to protect U.S. economy, to protect your welfare. At least I deliver. I dare to fight with a big country like China. So far, I think he will behave. And then if you don't expect worsening of trade deal, growth is about 3.2% for global side. But what will be the upside? Which means that there is whatever rate cuts, whatever pump priming by the government start to work on the economy, you may see growth about 3.5%, but the probability is about 15%. What would the worst case, which means that you are growing below 3% or like recession, that would be about 35%. This is my crystal ball, yeah? So you can, this is based on what I think the outlook for next year for the global side. So this is a central bank. Look at this chart. Everyone is cutting rates. The question is, you need to ask whether would it help or not. You must understand, in 2008-09, before the central bank worldwide cut rates or even print money, just for US alone, that time the rate is about 5.25. So when you have at high level, you cut massively, you'll be very effective. You can see the massive, in terms of stimulus coming from on the lower interest rate. But now, most of the central bank is very low. How much low it can go? Low to the extent that you come to any banks, I charge you interest, I don't pay you FD rates. I force you to spend. I force you to come, I give you 0 interest rate. So will people come forward to borrow and spend or not? That is about confidence. Are you confident this time around? All the rate cut or printing money or even like pushing loans can help to revive the economy. So we should not be too bearish. I think there are pockets of opportunity there, yeah? So when you see opportunity, you should grab the opportunity. But I also advise you not to be, because currently Malaysia is highly geared. Households are highly geared. Maybe most of you cash rich, I think. But highly geared, so you also don't want to be too over leveraged. If you can't repay your loan, then it will be more stress in the banking system. So now this is the, just to show you how the commodity markets, the gold markets and all the react so far. I think gold has been the most safe haven in a way. If they see some signs of instability, so people will buy more gold. Yeah, good for the ladies, orang-orang Kelantan. The ladies, the gold price has been going up, but recently has retraced. And I've been showing each chart for the last 2 years plus. And I show people that, it's time, you should buy gold, but I didn't buy. But these are the, advice to investors. For crude oil prices, it creeping up. Anything about creeping up crude oil prices is good for Malaysia, but government had to subsidize on the fuel prices. So, commodity, at least, for the last few days, what is this? Too sensitive. Okay, has creeping up because of the ease in the inventory. Your production also lower. and that helped to boost up the prices. So now on Malaysia, back to Malaysia now, a priority for action now more than ever. Stop political bickering. It's time to move on. It's time to, outside world is changing by minutes, by second. We had to be remain focused. If not, Malaysia will be lagging behind. Yeah. So this is about the leading index. This is a very reliable, predictable about the country. So if you track this leading index, it gives you about 6 months ahead, forward expectation about the country. So from here you can see it's been softening. In line, we look at the GDP growth. First quarter 4.5, second quarter 4.9, third quarter 4.4, and be mindful, all this growth has been supported by one leg, private consumption, which is all of us. The private investment continue to remain weak. Exports are not supporting us. Yeah? Public investment continue to contract sharply because the government need to consolidate. So it's only one leg of the economy that support the economy, which is private consumption. So it's important to be mindful about this. And what's the outlook for this year? I'm looking at 4.6. It's lower than the MOF forecast of 4.7. I don't think this number should be okay. What we are concerned about next year. Next year, budget 4.8%, projected by Ministry of Finance, and SARC, which is my center, private think tank, we are looking about 4.5%. So the driver for next year growth will still depend on domestic demand, the private consumption. We are hoping that the budget 2020 will be implemented more efficiently to drive the growth. Yeah. So these are the indicators. Retail sales number coming off. Growth is still growth, 6.7%, but slower. Yeah. And these are the industrial production. This is the exports numbers up to first 9 months of this year, minus 1.1. I think full year is the contraction, full year. Next year, government is looking about 1%. I'm looking about 2%. It's still very weak growth. Yeah? And for the loans, the bankers, I think in terms of the loan growth, overall loan growth are coming off, both your household sector and also your business sector. So they are cautious. Yeah, cautiousness in terms of the business lending and also the household side. So these are the consumption indicators. Track the durable goods, car sales, quite volatile because of all this base effect due to the lapsings of the GST, no tax holiday. And then these are the wholesales, those who are in the wholesale, retail, hotel sector, which is in line with the consumer spending side. They are showing expansion growth, but the pattern are quite uneven. These are the consumption goods. This is the private investment indicator, capital goods, how much you import for future expansions. And these are the intermediate goods. Everything are still quite in the negative zone, but last month we saw some pickup here and there. So everything is still very uneven. So now on the lending side, working capital, demand for working capital also easing off. Construction, manufacturing, uneven pattern, and also the real estates remain subdued. Property overhang in the commercial, in the non-resident sector, in the resident sector. I think cautiousness are there. We are seeing overhang. So this is the consumer spending. I want to spend a little bit more about this. Yeah. First of all, you look at the consumer sentiments, the purple line. Continue to ease off, weaken, compared to the peak right after the G14. Everyone is so gung-ho, so happy. But now everyone like coming off. Everybody looks so moody, so jaded, hoping for new thing to come. Patient is a word. But then you look at the consumption growth, very resilient. Malaysian complain to me, hey, I'm not spending, but look at the numbers, tell you otherwise. People are spending. Double 11, you wake up until midnight, go and buy goods, and we rank number 7 in the global in terms of spending. People are spending, though. So I think maybe the sentiment may not jive with the consumption growth. And people ask me whether this growth, this number compiled by the Department of Statistics is real or not. Is it real? I think it's real. Yeah, I believe it's real. Strongly believe it's real because I'm an ex-Bank Negara, working there for 12 years. I look at numbers from day one as the economist until now. So I strongly believe our government agency published data are real. Don't be doubtful about the numbers. But one thing to check is you go around, of course you look at shopping malls, too many shopping malls around the LDP. So they are empty, but sometimes it's good to go into different malls and see, then we roughly gauge. This is my job, you know. So I have this job that when I go around, I like to talk to salespeople, I like to talk to people around, so whether are you spending. So generally people are spending, maybe some cautious people, cash is still there. So people are just waiting for clarity, and then they could be pent-up demand later on. So, but I want to tell you that the private sector wage growth, because you could be the employer, you could be the employee, but I think on average, 2015 to 2018, the real wage growth is about 3.1%. And the latest 4Q expected is about 3.2 to 4.1. I think it's a bit coming off. That could dampen the consumer spending going forward. Yeah, so that's why I expect next year growth is about 6.7%. So now, investment. This is important. Sadly, we are looking at this trend is coming down. Weakening by the quarter. Yeah, weakening. So why? Why investment are not strong? One, external side uncertainty, you know, with all this ongoing tension on the trade side. Domestic side, people are still not clear about clarity, policy, domestic political developments. There are sectors which are oversupply, which also dampen the investment in property sector. So, but we are seeing approved foreign direct investment into the country, but the domestic approval data is still contracting. So these are things that which the government of the day need to address. Why are the domestic investors are not putting more money in the country? So it's a challenge for them to draw out more supportive, better investment climate to retain and attract more investment, okay? So you look at government side, our Minister of Finance has presented a budget which is well taken by most people. It's a slight, still the, in terms of government expenditure, they likely to increase by 4.3% to 56 billion. And these are the project, new project and ongoing project. And for next year, 53.2 billion will be allocated for 4,744 ongoing projects and about 2.8 billion for new projects. So important for this execution to be good, then only the economy can feel the multiplier effect on every sector of the economy. Because generally people are feeling growth is about 4.4, 4.5, but are not feeling the effect of the economy. So you need to make sure projects are quickly implemented and let the effect felt more, yeah? So which is the growth coming from? I think Malaysia, services sector will be the big one. We expect 6%. Services here is broad-based. You have retail, trade-related, communications, finances. But the one that we are hopeful is next year is Visit Malaysia year. I ask you, any activity have you seen? Preparation for the Visit Malaysia year, 2020? Everybody silent. Yeah? So you look at Visit Malaysia year, it's a big tagline. And next year is APEC, even bigger event. You should start preparing now. Use whatever gadgets you have, social media, blast out, you know. So, I don't know. Do you know who is the Minister of Tourism? So these are things that we have to drive. Tourism is a low-hanging industry. It's a low-hanging industry. Some more with your currency is so weak, so you can generate a lot of interest, you know. And who's the market? China, from China, not just China, from India, you know, from surrounding country. I mean, manufacturing sector, I'm looking at about 3.9%, agriculture 2.5%, partly because of the supported by higher palm oil output. And the mining is still quite weak, 0.8% growth for next year. Construction, I'm looking about 1.5%. Even though we have new revival of all this ECIL ongoing project, I think the one that dragged overall is the property sector. Because your construction sector comprises of 3 components. One is the civil engineering project. Second is your what I call the housing sector. And third component is your non-housing sector. So that sector, these 2 sectors, housing and non-housing, in terms of commercial side, they are overhang. Most likely they will dampen the activity in the construction sector side. So export side, not very encouraging in terms of the direction. At least Malaysia export sector and products are diversified. So once one sector are slowing, can be offset by other sector. I think Malaysia we're lucky, you know. Kalau oil price turun, then our CPO go up. CPO turun, the oil price go up. But I think this is something about the diversification. Just like in your business sector, you need to diversify. You should not be concentrated on one single product. Yeah. Inflation is not an issue. I think next year we are looking about 0.2%. But at this level, low inflation will give room for central bank to cut rate if the economy slow down. Yeah? And this is the interest rate. I'm expecting about 25 basis point cut for next year. Yeah? That also depends on the outlook for GDP. If there's 1/4 of GDP going closer to 4%, there is a chance for central bank to cut interest rate. Yeah? Okay, this is the comparison between my forecast versus the Ministry of Finance. You can look at, for private investment, I'm looking about 2.2%, MOF 2.1%. You see, look at the investment growth is still very weak. Exports growth for next year, and government 1%, I'm looking at 2%, and unemployment rate is quite stable, 3.3%, and the crude oil and the palm oil prices, yeah, just for comparison. So now on SME, the key for today, capturing opportunity and challenges at plenty, okay. So now, let's look at the budget. It's a budget for future because these are the trusts. These are the measures under different heading. I think I will look at this budget not just about short-term focus, but also medium-term for competitiveness and prepare Malaysia for future. Why? Because there's a big chunk of this about gearing up for digitalization, industry forward. They are about SME, Entrepreneurial, Visit Malaysia, big. There's another one, agriculture. This is one that we hope the 6.5 billion job creation initiative, hopefully we can see some effect from there. We are yet to know the detail, will be announced by EPF. And also from R&D, cost of living. To me, it's a very comprehensive budget. Some about wish lists from the Chinese chamber that we submitted to MOF. Some were incorporated in this budget, okay? And I just picked some of the related measures on grant side, yeah, for SME. You should take this opportunity, go and do some homework, go to apply for all this matching grant. For the export market, they have raised from 200,000 and 300,000 to 300,000, very effective. I think at one time that there were no budget, they cut down. So magic for those who are in the innovation, creativity. And these are the tax incentives. We've been fighting very hard about this. Now they raise the threshold to 600,000, but we are still working hard. We want them to raise it to maybe 1 to 2 million. Okay, so this is the venture capital, and for the ACE market and the loans. You know, banks remain supportive to lend the SME in the right sector. Yeah. So these are the rates, interest rate charge. Yeah, you can do reference. You must be aware of what are the things available to you. Go through your wire, your chamber, your industry, your SME association. Make sure they do homework because you are paying fees. You are paying annual fees. So they should, but on yourself, you to be initiative is on you. You have to find out, because based on our survey, there are a lot of SME are not aware about what are the incentive or what called the initiative available for them. Okay. So just to give you a perspective, I know you know all this, but just to put in one simple slide, SME is very important in Malaysia. Yeah. So in terms of GDP, it's about 38.3%. in terms of value-wise, every year has been growing. Exports, they are also doing good part of that. Exports about 17.2%, and these are the sector. SME, largest in services, followed by manufacturing, agriculture, construction, and mining. So now, we are ready. Malaysia digital outlook is ready. Population outlook is ready. Look at in terms of digital population, connectivity, devices, and usage, you name it. Malaysians are very creative. Creative or maybe other news, I don't know. But Malaysia, there are a lot of, in terms of devices, mobile penetration, the user, internet, we are all ready. The platform are ready for you to leverage on this, the digital connectivity, to explore the outside world, markets, everything. Okay. Now, in terms of digital economy, look at digital economy is booming every year. Look at it, the growth in terms of value, share to GDP about 18.5%. The e-commerce outlook, these are all the latest data that I had from the Department of Statistics, and in terms of value added, yeah. So the numbers tell you something that we should not miss out this opportunity. So coincidentally, because when I do my slide, I didn't talk to other speaker, which is when I look at the program, is jive very well. So I think later on you can share with them about this. So e-commerce industry, the value of e-commerce industry now is about 447.8 billion, and I also give you by sector, yeah. So in terms of type of customer, the growth, B2G, double-digit growth, B2C and B2B, okay? And also, I also track Malaysia consumer behavior is shifting towards more digital spending, yeah? Okay, worldwide growth, yeah? And how SME capture this business opportunity? First one, relevance. You must always think forward, push your limit beyond the boundary. Then only you can be a global champion. Don't be too complacent with the existing market. Of course, sometimes you have to find the right partner, yeah? Strategize it. And growth opportunities are always there, but mindset, the attitude must change. If you continue to do the business the same old way, then you don't blame anyone, okay? Now, you also have to go to embrace technology. Don't be afraid. Digital transformation and e-commerce too. And I think the digital is very powerful tools to connect in terms of market, people to people. Yeah, so that is something that I will share with you one survey that I've done among our chambers members. In fact, some of them are still not ready to embrace all this. Yeah, okay, and the environment is there. I think we have this MC Minister. He has done a good job in terms of how to, first for start, he lowered the fixed band charges that to make it affordable. Yeah. So you look at Malaysia, ranked 26 out of 63 countries in terms of digital competitiveness. There's still a long way to go. Yeah, Korea is ahead of us, Hong Kong, all this. So I think at least we are still better than Thailand, Indonesia. Okay, this is the survey I done. I mean, among our members. For those, just do some promo. You can go to my website. A lot of information there. You can download free, and we do survey half yearly. The survey is not just about specific topic, but we also do survey about the business prospect on different sector, outlook for the economy, and currently I'm doing one is for the next year, first half of next year. So from our feedback members, 28.7% saying that they are lack of knowledge and skill to do, lack of IT, 20.8% say that speed is not there, reliability is not there, 17.1% say that you need investment. Investment, new technology need the fixed cost. So I think the bank should come forward to support them. Yeah. So in terms of some say that they are too small to use, reluctant, a bit reluctant to do it. The change in mindset, they are comfortable with what they have now. They don't want to go beyond the comfort zone. And then, based on our survey, we also show that people are not aware what's the industry forward. 63.9%, at least they only aware about one listed incentive, and less than 15% were aware of the government loans and grants. These are not healthy. So which means that they have not done their homework, or they need to be more access to information and knowledge about what's happening. So, but this is I would urge the SME, go forward, go to MITI to register yourself, because MITI, they are targeting about 500 SME to undergo the readiness assessment of the IR4. They want to assess which stage are you in now, whether 2 or 3, and then they will prescribe the solution to help you. So you should come forward to register. And based on the latest data we had, is about 713 applications have been received, and they have approved of 361. So go to this website, MITI. These are the process they do it. Don't be afraid. They are not going to ask you to open your book, your booklet behind under the table. Or they just want you to register to make sure that how ready you are. They want to help you, facilitate you. So I'm doing a promo job for YB on camping. So you come forward. It's not about tax. So how SME capture business opportunity? The first one, creativity and innovation. Many cases show if you are not innovative and creative, normally you compare to those who are more creative and more innovative, I think they will be more ahead of the frontier. So why? Because that helps to improve productivity, lower the cost of production, and improve your process efficiency. So you must be creative and innovative. And in what areas? Product, marketing, branding, and software, hardware and software technology adoption is important. And also this is important. You must create the right digital platform ecosystem for business to grow, to expand. That's why our MC Minister, for the first thing, reduce the broadband charges. Make it more competitive. Ease the cost, reduce the trade cost, lower the barrier to entry, and encourage SME to involve more, to all this. And the other one, information is important. Big data. Information, you must capture information, understand, analyze it. So I spoke to one cafe owner who told me that he tracked all the behavior of the customer that come in. Whatever they do, they track and then analyze the information. And from there, they can see the sales have jumped up significantly. So don't be afraid to do all this. If you don't know how to track data, you come and see me, I teach you. I give you free. So cheap and reliable access to digital networks. This, the other one is the internet. These are the information you can digest. I just give you key headers for you to understand the opportunity for you, but you don't be afraid to adopt digital. If you always reluctant to change the business mindset, it's about attitude. Malaysians, they are, to some extent, government can help you, but to me, everything's on yourself. Nobody can help you if you don't help yourself. The mindset and attitude. So with this, thank you for attention, and I will take Q&A from the Slido. Thank you. Questions?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our first question. For those who just entered the hall, you can actually go out to your browser, Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, click Slido, search for Slido, and you can enter the event code #SMEForum2, and your questions will appear here. So the first question for Mr. Lee is from Iqmal Hanafi.
Cool.
Regarding our SMEs, what are the strategies for SMEs to grow strong and to survive in Malaysia, especially in inflation economy?
Inflation economy, you're talking about a country which we are experiencing increased cost of doing business or what? May I know? I just want to make sure that what do you mean by? Okay, I will just answer in general. I think I already list down what are how to capture opportunities in Malaysia, in the sense that in terms of strategy, sorry. I think what he means is the increased cost of doing business. The growth, yeah.
Sorry. The 3% you were saying just now, the border, you know. So I think what he means is the inflation economy we may get into, then assuming then all these things applies.
Oh, okay, I think what I mentioned about the 3% is the global growth. It's not inflation. Global growth, where if it's growing about 3% or below, that could be in a recession. I just answer in a very general way. I think in terms of SME, as I mentioned, if you want to strategize, you must know your market, know your product, and as I mentioned, we are in the era of digitalization, so you have to embrace it and use the digital tools to the maximum to explore new markets. Yeah, but that also requires the SME to know your customer well. First of all, in terms of the production efficiency, the processes, you have to be more efficient rather than depends on more workers. I'm not asking, I mean, there's a challenge for you to automate everything and know that Malaysia is very highly dependent on foreign workers, and government is on the long term want to reduce it, especially low skill. But most important, you must be able to find the right partner. See, from the chamber side, I think the China market is big. And to go to China, just a good example, to go to China, you must know China well. Different province have different consumer behavior in terms of their preference. So one way to penetrate China market is to find a local partner on the based on the principle of trust, then you can work on. But for you to go alone, unless you have a big capital size, you have the muscle to fight with the small small SME in China come to Malaysia is huge, large. It's not considered small in terms of the capital size. So I think this is what I would advise you to do. Yeah. Anyone?
All right, our next question would be, how does SME really work in Malaysia on 2020?
It's almost the same question, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, the second question.
How does SME really work in Malaysia? Very funny question. I don't understand what do you mean SME work in Malaysia in 2020?
All right, then maybe we can move on to the next
To me, it's
question.
almost a
Yeah?
similar
We can
now.
take this offline, I guess. All right, regarding about SMEs, how would a services company, like accounting or lawyer firm, do e-commerce?
How would a service company like accounting or lawyer firm do e-commerce? So you're providing the services. Like for example, like a company who are doing trading e-commerce in trading. So you as a service company, you are supporting and facilitate the company. And even you can use whatever the creative, in terms of the technology to simplify in terms of the processes of your business. That will also help to reduce the costs along the way. A lot of SME questions. Nobody asks about economy.
Maybe we can answer from...
Yeah, I think all this, is there any matching grant? I mentioned in my slide. I told you that in the budget, they have the grant, the matching grant. But most important, you must know where to apply for this. As I mentioned to you, MET, the respective agency will be in charge of all this. Come forward to this. I think no point you have this budget is there and utilization is low, and you blame on government that you are not supporting us. But maybe one area which I always tell the government is that you have to simplify the processes or applications, not too cumbersome and too layers, and that will discourage the smallish company to come forward. So you simplify it, try to use more e-government services. Everything should be more online application, and it's a one-off approval. As long as things are quite improper, you don't have to do a lot of auditing about the processes, then I think SME will be more happy to come forward. Yeah. So I think SME, when they come forward, they always worry about the two type of books, you know. So they always think about they have to show their books. But I think in all this incentive and grant, it's very specific, tailor for you. You know, about matching grant, if you can show that I have a market, I need to do some expo, then they will give you the market development grant, okay? So we also don't want people to abuse the system, because these are all taxpayer money. So if you want it to be effective, you also have the onus on you to be, you really want to grow your market and come forward. So I think the other one is that, salam to all. I apologize for coming late, am I? Okay. If this has not been touched on, what is your opinion? I already mentioned here. I think you look at the US-China trade war, people will tell you we will benefit. Net, no one will gain. Everyone's a loser, right? Short term, you may see diversion, like we benefited somewhat, I mean, in terms of trade diversion from other country or they buy from us. But you look at the numbers I show you. First 9 months, contracted by 1.1%. Certain sector you benefited, but there are also disruption on the supply chain side. So on a net basis, you will still be losing out. The global economy, the trade level had been significantly dampened by the ongoing disruption from the trade war. Okay, so based on Bank and Guard assessment, if there's a worsening trade war, it could slash the GDP, maybe by 0.5 to 1%. So the degree impact will depends on how severe, how long the trade war will prolong. Is it realistic to expect the ongoing trade tension to have a positive spillover effect? Yeah, I mentioned just now about short term, there will be positive spillover effect, but if a long drag, no one will gain from there. But of course, for Malaysia government can strategize to attract relocations of all this company impacted by the two giants to position Malaysia as the production or shipment hub. But for that to happen, they need to make a major decision to whether to relocate, because they don't know how long this thing will drag. What if they decided to move and you have this Trump one day wake up and say, no, I want to have a truce with China. So that could impacted a lot of corporate decision to be made. So that's why you can see for the first 6 months of this year, we saw quite a lot of applications came in, whether from China, from other countries, to invest in Malaysia. The approved data is very strong. It underscore two things. One is underscore that the foreign investors still have confidence to put their money in Malaysia. It's a clear mandate to the new government. And secondly, it also shows that there are investors who are on a long-term basis, they want to diversify more, given that the concern about this, a lot of countries want to adopt protectionism. I think the world has moved towards more globalization, towards more protecting their own markets. So this is not a healthy sign. What we want is a global trade environment where we have open, fair trade. I think when there's a competition, there is more competition into the domestic economy, it will be good for who? Not just for business in terms of competition, but when there are people competing with you, you'll be more vigilant, you'll be more focused on productivity, improvement, efficiency. And for consumer, more players in the market, also good for consumer. Prices will be more competitive priced. You're not dominant by one single player, or what I call monopoly, or few player oligopoly, but there's more player, competitive players. Okay? So Mr. Lee, you mentioned, am I going to answer all?
We're going to have one
okay,
more question. Last question.
Visit Malaysia year 2020 will be a trust for econ. Which sector do you see? Visit Malaysia year, the target is to get 30 million tourist arrival and 100 billion foreign exchange earnings. So if we can hit the target, definitely it will be very good for the economy. Why? The sector that benefit most is the services sector, which is the wholesales, retail, hotel, transport, communication, and even air travel. All this will benefit. and even cascading down to local economy, like areas which they like to visit, the bright spot of the country, tourism. It will help, definitely will help. But the problem is that can we get the numbers that we want? Sorry.
You know the recent FAA decision, Category 2.
Correct.
How is that going to impact our tourism industry?
But I think that one so far, what I monitor, it wouldn't affect the number of flights that come into Malaysia. So I think that one we hope the agency will, within the 1 year, they need to rectify what are the weakness, and definitely it will be some dampener in terms of those who are coming in from US to here. I think the other countries are still okay. So this is something. Unfortunately, it came at a time where we have this Visit Malaysia year. But I think we still can do a lot of promo in terms to the promotion drive to make sure that it will be a successful Visit Malaysia. Then if I track every year, the time where we have Visit Malaysia year, then we see some improvement, not just the number of tourists, but also improvement in the sector which I mentioned. So it's important, that's why I say it's important now to get your ministry running now. Start preparing for this. Yeah, don't wait. Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's all from.
I know.
That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Any more questions you can take during the morning break, yeah, and networking lunch.
Thank you.
All right.
Overrun.